General Una Park stood at the window of the peace station and looked at the stars. She was 52 years old now. Her black hair had some gray in it. Her face had lines from many years of thinking and worrying, but her eyes were still sharp. They were the eyes of a soldier. Behind her, the great hall was filling with aliens from 100 different worlds. They had come to celebrate the anniversary of the Great Laying Down. 900 years ago, humanity had put away their weapons. They had stopped being warriors. They had become builders and healers and teachers instead. Una was the last human who still held the title of War General. It was just a ceremonial title now. She took care of old records and old ships that no one used anymore. At least, that is what everyone believed. Admiral Tae Kim walked up beside her. He was 60 years old, tall and thin, with kind eyes. He had served with Una for 30 years. They were old friends. "The Valkyrie delegation has arrived," Tae said quietly. "They brought 50 guards with them. That is more than usual." Una did not turn from the window. I also noticed that their guards are carrying weapons that are too new and too expensive for simple bodyguards." Tae frowned. "You think something is wrong?" "I have thought something was wrong for 10 years now," Una said. "The Valkyrie joined the Galactic Council 200 years ago. They smiled and signed the peace treaties. But I have watched them. They look at humans the way a hunter looks at sleeping prey." "Perhaps you are being too careful," Tae said, but his voice was not certain. "Perhaps," Una said, "but my daughter is here today. Ambassador Hana is leading the human delegation. If I am wrong, I lose nothing by being careful. If I am right, I may save her life." Down in the Great Hall, Ambassador Hana Lee was greeting the alien delegates. She was 30 years old and beautiful, with her mother's sharp eyes and her father's gentle smile. She believed in peace with all her heart. She had spent her whole life working to keep the galaxy safe and calm. The Valkyrie Emperor's representative approached her. He was tall and covered in dark red scales. His name was Lord Vec, and he smiled with too many teeth. "Ambassador Lee," he said, "it is good to see humanity so committed to peace. Your people have become so gentle over the centuries. So soft. So trusting." Hana smiled politely. She did not like the way he said those words. "We are committed to peace because we choose to be, Lord Vec. Not because we have forgotten how to be strong." Lord Vec laughed. Of course. I meant no offense." He walked away, and Hana felt a cold feeling in her stomach. She looked up at the window where her mother stood. Their eyes met across the great distance of the hall. Una nodded once, very slightly. It meant, "Stay alert." The ceremony began. Una walked down to the stage to give her speech. Thousands of aliens watched her. Millions more watched on screens across the galaxy. 900 years ago, Una said, humanity made a choice. We had won every war we had ever fought. We had weapons that could break planets. We had soldiers that other species told stories about to frighten their children. We were called the Extinction Makers. The hall was very quiet, but we looked at what we had become, and we were ashamed. So we chose a different path. We put away our weapons. We decided to build instead of destroy. To heal instead of harm. We have kept that promise for 900 years. She paused and looked at the Valkyrie delegation. We hope that promise can last forever. But remember this, we chose peace. We were not forced into it. And a choice can be made again. She stepped down from the stage. The audience began to clap. That is when the lights went out. In the darkness, Una heard the sound of weapons being drawn. She heard running feet. She heard someone scream. Then she felt the first blade enter her back. Una did not fall. She turned, grabbed the arm of her attacker, and broke it with one quick motion. The Valkyrie assassin screamed. Una took his blade and put it through his throat. 2 more assassins came at her from the shadows. She killed them both in less than 4 seconds. Her body remembered the training from 40 years ago. Her muscles remembered what her peaceful mind had tried to forget. But the 4th assassin had a gun. He shot her twice in the chest before Admiral Tae tackled him to the ground. Una fell. The lights came back on. The Great Hall was chaos. Alien delegates were running and screaming. Security forces were fighting with Velkari attackers, and Ambassador Hana Lee was running toward her mother, tears streaming down her face. Mother, mother. Yuna lay on the floor in a pool of her own blood. She was still alive, but barely. She looked up at her daughter and tried to smile. I am sorry, Hana. I ruined your peace ceremony. Do not talk. Save your strength. The medics are coming. Admiral Tay knelt beside them. His face was pale with shock and anger. Around them, the last of the Velkari assassins were being killed or captured. Yuna grabbed Tay's hand with surprising strength. Tay, listen to me. I am here, General. This was not random. This was planned. The Velkari think we are weak. They think 900 years of peace has made us forget who we are. What do you want me to do? Yuna coughed blood. Her eyes were starting to close, but her voice was still strong. Wake them up, Tay. Wake all of them up. Show them that we did not forget. We only chose to sleep. She passed out. Around the galaxy, the footage of the attack spread like fire. Billions of beings watched General Yuna Park kill 3 assassins with her bare hands before falling. They watched her daughter crying over her body. They watched the blood of a human hero spill across the floor of a peace station. The Velkari had made a mistake. They had targeted the woman general. They had attacked the heart of humanity. They did not know what they had awakened. In hidden places across 100 worlds, old soldiers watched the footage. They looked at each other with eyes that remembered ancient training. They waited for the signal. 900 years of tranquility had just ended. The extinction makers were about to remember who they were. Colonel Wu Xin was eating his lunch when his phone rang. He was sitting in his office at the Museum of Human History in Seoul. He was 63 years old, with a round face and glasses. To everyone who knew him, he was just a museum curator, a quiet man who loved old books and ancient artifacts. But Colonel Wu had a secret, and when he saw the code on his phone screen, he knew that his secret was about to become very important. The message was simple. Protocol Crimson. Authorization. Park, Yuna. Wu put down his sandwich. His hands were shaking slightly. He had waited his entire life for this message. He had hoped it would never come. But now it was here. He walked to the back of the museum, past the displays of old weapons and uniforms. He went down a hallway that said, Staff Only, and stopped at a plain metal door. He put his hand on a scanner. He looked into a camera. He spoke a password that had been passed down through his family for 900 years. The door opened. Behind it was an elevator. Wu stepped inside and pressed the only button. The elevator went down. It went down for a very long time. When it stopped, Wu stepped out into a cavern so large that he could not see the other end. The ceiling was high above him, lost in darkness. And filling the cavern, row after row, were warships, thousands of them. They were covered in dust, but they were perfect. Their weapons were loaded, their engines were ready. They had been waiting here for 900 years, sleeping like dragons under a mountain. This was not the only vault. There were others like it, hidden on 100 worlds. Every human colony had one. The Galactic Council thought humanity had destroyed their weapons after the Great Laying Down. They were wrong. Humanity had simply hidden them and waited. Wu's phone rang again. It was Admiral Tae Kim. Colonel Wu, did you receive the authorization? I did, Admiral. I am in the vault now. Good. Begin activation. We need every ship ready within 48 hours. It will be done, Admiral. How is General Park? There was a pause. She is alive. The doctors say she will survive. But she will need months to recover. The Velkari will pay for this. Yes, they will. Wu ended the call and began to work. He walked to a control panel and started pressing buttons. Lights began to turn on across the cavern. The dust began to shake off the ancient ships. Engines that had been silent for centuries started to hum. The dragons were waking up. On the other side of the earth, Captain Nari Choi was sitting in her apartment when her doorbell rang. She was 28 years old. With short black hair and quick, nervous eyes, she worked as a shuttle pilot, carrying passengers between Earth and the Moon. It was a boring job, but it paid well. But Nari had a secret too. Every member of her family, going back 900 years, had trained in secret. They had learned to fly warships. They had learned to fight. They had passed this knowledge from parent to child, generation after generation, waiting for the day when it would be needed. Nari had never believed that day would come. She had thought the training was just a family tradition, like a strange hobby. But she had done it anyway, because her mother had asked her to. Now, there was a woman at her door in a military uniform. The woman handed her a piece of paper. Captain Nari Choi, you are hereby activated under Protocol Crimson. You are to report to Seoul Military Vault 7 within 6 hours. You have been assigned to Fighter Squadron 12. Nari took the paper. Her hands were shaking. Is this real? It is real, Captain. The general has been attacked. Humanity is going to war. The woman left. Nari sat down on her couch and stared at the paper for a long time. Then she started to cry. Not because she was afraid, because she finally understood why her family had made her train all those years. Because she finally had a purpose. She packed a bag and left for Seoul. In New York, director Jin Kang stood before the cameras of the Global Defense Council. He was 70 years old, with white hair and a face like carved stone. His job had been ceremonial for 900 years. The Defense Council had nothing to defend against. They just kept records and attended meetings. But now Jin had a real job to do. People of Earth, he said. People of every human colony. You have seen the footage of the attack on General Yuna Park. You have seen our hero fall. You have seen the Valkyrie try to murder the symbol of our peaceful strength. He paused. His eyes were hard. The Galactic Council has asked us to accept this as an isolated incident. They have asked us to forgive and forget. The Valkyrie claim the assassins were acting alone, without orders from their government. His voice grew stronger. We do not believe them, and we will not forgive. Around the world, humans stopped what they were doing and listened. For 900 years, we chose peace. We built instead of destroyed. We healed instead of harmed. We became teachers and doctors and artists. We were proud of what we had become. End of FK. He leaned forward. But you have made a mistake, Valkyrie. You thought our mercy was weakness. You thought our peace was fear. You thought 900 years had made us soft. He smiled, and it was not a friendly smile. You targeted our mother, our general, our heart. And now you will learn why the galaxy once called us the Extinction Makers. Behind him, a screen lit up. It showed footage from the vaults around the world. Thousands of warships rising from their hiding places. Soldiers putting on armor that had not been worn for centuries. Pilots climbing into fighters that their ancestors had flown. We are coming, Jin said. Pray to whatever gods you believe in. Because humanity remembers who we are. He ended the broadcast. Across the galaxy, Valkyrie sensors began to scream warnings. Ships were appearing everywhere. Human ships. Thousands of them. 10,000 of them. They were emerging from hidden locations on 100 worlds, from secret bases that no one had known existed. The sleeping dragon had awakened, and it was very, very angry. On the Valkyrie throne world, Emperor Rothak sat on his golden chair and watched the reports come in. His advisors ran back and forth, their red scales pale with fear. Officers shouted into communication devices. Alarms rang through the palace. How is this possible? Rothak demanded. The humans destroyed their weapons 900 years ago. The treaties required it. We watched them do it. They lied, great emperor, one advisor said, his voice shaking. They never destroyed anything. They only hid their weapons. They have been waiting all this time. Rothak slammed his fist on his throne. Waiting for what? For someone to give them a reason to fight again. Rothak thought about the assassination he had ordered. It had seemed like such a good idea. Kill the old general. Show the galaxy that humans were weak, take their colonies one by one while they cried and begged for peace. Now 10,000 human warships were moving through the galaxy toward his empire, and Rothak was beginning to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. High Lord Daemoon stood on the bridge of the human flagship, the Eternal Dawn. He was 45 years old, tall and strong, with a face that showed no emotion. He had been a professor of military history before the activation. Now he was Supreme Commander of the Human Expeditionary Force. Around him, officers worked at their stations. The ship hummed with power. Through the windows, he could see hundreds of other human ships flying in perfect formation. "Commander," an officer said, "we are in position. All fleets report ready." Day nodded. "Open a channel to the Velkari throne world. I want to speak to their emperor." The screen flickered, and Emperor Rothak appeared. He tried to look proud and strong, but Day could see the fear in his eyes. "Human commander," Rothak said. "This show of force is unnecessary. The attack on your general was the work of rogue agents. The Velkari Empire had nothing to do with it. We demand that you withdraw your ships immediately." Day looked at him for a long moment without speaking. "You are lying," Day said finally. "We have captured the assassins who survived. We have read their communications. We know that you personally ordered the attack on General Park." Rothak's face twitched, but he kept talking. "Those are false accusations. The Galactic Council will not allow this aggression. The Galactic Council has already been informed. They have chosen to step aside." Day leaned forward. "You have 72 hours, Emperor. In that time, you will surrender every individual involved in the attack on General Park. You will surrender yourself for trial. And you will pay reparations to humanity." Reparations to humanity. "And if I refuse?" Day smiled. It was not a human smile. It was the smile of a predator. "Then we will demonstrate why the galaxy once called us the Extinction Makers. And you will learn why no species has attacked humanity in 900 years. He ended the transmission. Rothak turned to his generals. "Prepare our fleets. The humans are bluffing. They have been peaceful for too long. They have forgotten how to fight." His generals looked at each other nervously, but they obeyed. On Earth, Dr. Bora Han worked desperately to save General Yuna's life. The bullets had done terrible damage. Yuna had lost a lot of blood. Her heart had stopped twice on the operating table. But Bora was the best doctor in the human colonies, and she refused to let her patient die. After 12 hours of surgery, Yuna finally stabilized. She was still unconscious, but she was alive. Ambassador Hana sat beside her mother's bed, holding her hand. Her eyes were red from crying, but there was something else in her face now. Something hard and cold. Admiral Tae Kim entered the room. "Ambassador, the Galactic Council is requesting to speak with you. They want humanity to stand down." Hana did not look up from her mother's face. "What did you tell them?" "I told them to wait. I said the decision was yours." Hana finally looked at him. "Put them through." The screen in the room flickered. The faces of a dozen alien council members appeared. They looked worried and angry. "Ambassador Lee," one of them said, "this military action is a violation of galactic law. You must order your ships to withdraw." Hana stood up slowly. "For 900 years," she said, "humanity trusted you to keep the peace. We gave up our weapons because you promised that the Council would protect all species equally. We believed you." She walked toward the screen. "And then the Velkari attacked my mother. They shot her. They stabbed her. They tried to murder her in front of the entire galaxy. And what did you do?" The council members were silent. "You called it an isolated incident. You asked us to forgive. You protected the ones who tried to kill her." Her voice grew cold. "You had 900 years to maintain the peace. You failed. Now step aside." She ended the transmission. The 72 hours passed slowly. The Velkari did not surrender. Emperor Rothak believed that humanity was bluffing. He believed that 900 years of peace had made them weak. He was wrong. At the end of the 72 hours, a single human ship appeared near an uninhabited Velkari moon. The moon was small, about the size of Earth's moon. No one lived there. It was just rock and dust. The ship fired one shot. The moon exploded. Not cracked. Not damaged. It simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment it was dust spreading through space. Across the galaxy, every species watched the footage in horror. They had heard stories about human weapons. They had thought those stories were exaggerated. They were not exaggerated. High Lord Day appeared on every screen in the Velkari Empire. That was a warning, he said. The next shot will not hit an empty moon. Surrender now, or face the consequences. But Emperor Rothak still refused. He was too proud. Too stupid. Too certain that he could win. The human fleet began to move, and across the galaxy, other species started to evacuate Velkari space. They remembered the old stories now. They remembered what humans had done to the last empire that threatened Earth. The extinction makers were coming, and nothing in the galaxy could stop them. The Velkari fleet waited at the edge of their home system. 5,000 warships, the largest fleet their empire had ever assembled. Their ships were big and covered in weapons. Their soldiers were confident. They outnumbered the approaching human fleet 5-1. Admiral Rock stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled. He had fought many battles against weaker species. He had never lost. He did not plan to lose today. The humans are coming, his officer reported. 1,000 ships. They will arrive in 1 hour. Only 1,000? Rock laughed. They send 1,000 ships against 5,000? They truly have forgotten how to fight. He did not know that the other 9,000 human ships had already moved to different positions. He did not know about the strategy that human commanders had developed over 900 years of secret planning. He did not know that he was about to die. Captain Nari Choi sat in the cockpit of her fighter and tried to calm her breathing. Her hands were steady on the controls, but her heart was beating fast. This was her first real battle. All her training, all those years of secret practice, had led to this moment. Her squadron commander's voice came through her headset. All fighters, prepare for launch. Remember your training. Trust your instincts. And make your ancestors proud. The bay doors opened. Stars filled Nari's vision. Somewhere out there, the Velkari fleet was waiting. Squadron 12, launch. Nari pushed her throttle forward. Her fighter shot out into space like a bullet. Around her, 100 other fighters launched at the same time. They formed up in perfect formation and headed toward the enemy. Admiral Tae Kim stood on the bridge of the flagship Yuna's Fury and watched the battle begin. He had named the ship himself, after the woman who was still recovering on Earth. He wanted the Velkari to know exactly why they were going to die. All ships, begin attack pattern Alpha 7, he ordered. Let them think we are retreating. Draw them in. The human fleet turned and started to move backward. The Velkari, seeing this, cheered and pushed forward. They thought the humans were afraid. They thought this would be easy. It was not easy. When the Velkari fleet had moved far enough from their defensive positions, the other human ships appeared. They came from above, below, and behind. 9,000 ships, dropping out of faster-than-light travel at exactly the right moment. The Velkari were surrounded. All ships, Tay said calmly, open fire. The battle lasted 6 hours. It was not really a battle. It was a lesson. Human weapons were more powerful. Human ships were faster. Human tactics were superior. Every Velkari strategy was countered before it even began. Every Velkari attack was stopped and punished. Nari flew through the chaos, her fingers dancing on the controls. She had destroyed 7 Velkari fighters already. Her body moved without thinking. The training that had seemed so pointless for so many years was now saving her life again and again. A Velkari ship tried to escape. Nari chased it down and destroyed it with 2 shots. She watched the explosion and felt tears running down her face. She was not sure if they were tears of sadness or something else, something strange and terrible, a feeling of purpose being fulfilled. By the end of the 6th hour, the Velkari fleet was destroyed. 3,000 ships burned in space. 2,000 had surrendered. Admiral Rock was dead. Killed when his flagship exploded. The way to the Velkari homeworld was open. Sergeant Hyun Baek led his squad through the streets of the Velkari capital city. They wore black armor, and carried weapons that could cut through walls. They moved in perfect silence, like shadows made of death. The Velkari guards tried to stop them. They failed. They had never fought human soldiers before. They did not understand how fast humans could move, how strong they were, how many ways they knew to kill. Hyun felt nothing as he fought. He had trained for this his entire life. His father had trained before him, and his grandfather before that. 900 years of knowledge flowed through his muscles. They reached the palace gates. The gates were thick metal, designed to withstand any attack. Hyun placed a small device on the gates. He stepped back. The device beeped once. The gates vanished. Inside the palace, Emperor Rothak hid in his throne room. His guards surrounded him. His hands shook with fear. He could hear the sounds of fighting getting closer. The doors to the throne room exploded inward. Hyun walked through the smoke, his weapon raised, his squad spread out behind him. The Velkari guards fired at them. Hyun's armor absorbed the shots. He killed 6 guards in 4 seconds. Then there were no more guards. Only Emperor Rothak, sitting alone on his golden throne. "Please," Rothak begged. "Please, I surrender. I will give you anything. Just do not kill me." Hyun looked at him with cold eyes. "The general said to take you alive. You should thank her. If it was my choice, I would kill you slowly." He grabbed Rothak and dragged him out of the palace. 1 hour later, Admiral Tay appeared on every screen in the galaxy. "The battle is over. The Velkari fleet has been destroyed. Emperor Rothak has been captured. He will stand trial for his crimes against humanity." He paused. "To all other species watching this, remember what you have seen today. Humanity chose peace for 900 years. We did not fight because we did not want to fight. Not because we could not. If any other species attacks humanity, if anyone harms our people, you will share the Velkari's fate." He looked directly into the camera. "This is not a threat. This is a promise." On Earth, General Yuna Park opened her eyes for the first time in 2 weeks. Dr. Bora Han stood beside her bed, smiling. "Welcome back, General. You have been asleep for a while." "The fleet," Yuna whispered. "What happened?" "We won. The Velkari Emperor has been captured. The war is over." Yuna closed her eyes again. A small smile appeared on her face. "Good. I want to judge him myself." "You need to rest, General." "I will rest after the trial. Help me stand up. I have work to do." And even though she could barely walk, even though her body was broken and healing, General Yuna Park got out of her bed. She had a promise to keep. 6 months had passed since the attack on General Yuna Park. The galaxy had changed in those 6 months. Fear and respect had replaced the casual dismissal that many species once felt toward humanity. The old stories were being told again. Parents warned their children about the extinction makers. Diplomats spoke carefully when humans were in the room. And today, the whole galaxy was watching Earth. The trial of Emperor Rothak was about to begin. The courtroom was enormous. It had been built especially for this day. Thousands of seats were filled with representatives from every species in the Galactic Council. Cameras broadcast the proceedings to trillions of beings across the stars. At the front of the room, Emperor Rothak sat in chains. He looked smaller now. His red scales had lost their shine. His proud posture was gone. He had spent 6 months in a human prison, waiting for this day. Waiting to learn if he would live or die. A door opened at the back of the room. Everyone turned to look. General Yuna Park walked in slowly. She still used a cane. Her wounds had not fully healed, but her eyes were as sharp as ever, and her presence filled the room like a cold wind. The audience stood in silence as she walked to the judge's seat. She sat down carefully and looked at Rothak. For a long moment, she did not speak. "Emperor Rothak of the Velkari," she finally said, "you have been found guilty of ordering an assassination attempt on a human official. You have been found guilty of violating the peace treaties that your empire signed. You have been found guilty of starting a war that killed thousands of your own people." Rothak lowered his head. "I know what I did. Just tell me my punishment." Yuna studied him. "Before I do, I want you to understand something. When your assassins attacked me, I killed 3 of them with my hands. I am an old woman. I have not fought in decades, but I still remembered how. She leaned forward. Every human remembers how. We did not become peaceful because we forgot how to be violent. We became peaceful because we chose to be. Because we were tired of being monsters. Because we wanted to be better. Her voice grew harder, and you mistook that choice for weakness. You thought 900 years of peace meant we had lost our teeth. You were wrong. Rothak looked up at her with fear in his eyes. Please, just kill me and be done with it. No. The single word echoed through the courtroom. Killing you would be easy. It would feel good. Many humans want me to do it. They want revenge for what you did to me. They want to watch you die. She shook her head, but that is not what we are. Not anymore. We stopped being the extinction makers 900 years ago. We will not become them again. Not even for you. She stood up slowly, leaning on her cane. Emperor Rothak, you will not be executed. Instead, you will spend the rest of your life teaching. You will travel to every school in the Velkari Empire. You will tell children what you did. You will explain why it was wrong. You will teach them about the war you started and the people who died because of your pride. Rothak stared at her in horror. You want me to humiliate myself forever? I want you to learn. I want your people to learn. Death is easy. Memory is hard. She looked at the cameras broadcasting to the galaxy. Let everyone remember what happens when you attack humanity. Let everyone remember that we could have destroyed you completely. And let everyone remember that we chose not to. She sat back down. This trial is over. Guards came and took Rothak away. He was crying. Living forever with his shame was worse than any death he had imagined. Outside the courtroom, Ambassador Hana Lee was waiting for her mother. She hugged Yuna carefully, mindful of her injuries. That was a good speech, Mother. It was the truth. We cannot become monsters again. Not for revenge. Not for anything. They walked together through the halls of the building. Through the windows, they could see the sky. Human warships flew overhead in formation. A reminder to the galaxy of what humanity could do if provoked. What happens now? Hana asked. Now we rebuild. The Velkari Empire will be disarmed, but not destroyed. We will help them become peaceful, the way we became peaceful. It will take time, maybe centuries, but it is the right thing to do. In the plaza outside, a ceremony was taking place. Admiral Tae Kim stood before a crowd of soldiers and officers. General Yuna made her way to the stage, Hana helping her climb the steps. Today, Tae announced, General Yuna Park officially retires from her position. She has served humanity for 50 years. She has protected us in peace and led us in war. We owe her more than we can ever repay. The crowd cheered. Yuna raised her hand for silence. I am old and tired, she said. My fighting days are over. But humanity does not need me anymore. We have proven that we have not forgotten who we are. The galaxy knows that we are not to be attacked. She turned to Tae. Admiral Tae Kim will take my place as guardian of humanity. I trust him completely. Serve him as you served me. She took off her medal and placed it around Tae's neck. Then she stepped back. The crowd cheered again. Tae saluted her with tears in his eyes. In the crowd, Commander Nari Choi watched the ceremony. She had been promoted after the battle. She now commanded her own ship, the Dawn's Promise. She was a hero to millions of humans who had watched her fight against the Velkari, but she did not feel like a hero. She felt tired and sad, and strangely empty. Later that night, she stood on the roof of her apartment building and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, her ship waited for her. Somewhere out there, a galaxy full of aliens was learning to respect humanity again. She hoped she would never have to fight again. She hoped the peace would last forever this time. But if it did not, she would be ready. All of humanity would be ready. That was the lesson of the war. Humanity loved peace. They would choose it again and again, but they would never forget how to fight. They would never let anyone think they were weak. And somewhere, In schools across the Velkari Empire, an old emperor began to teach children about his greatest mistake. Be kind to humans, he told them. They are wonderful friends. They will help you and heal you and teach you. But never, ever make them your enemy. The children listened, the galaxy listened, and for another 900 years, there was peace. This time, everyone remembered why.